Hi, friends. It's Nurse Dee from Greenbrook, and I wanted to have a little talk about how we're going to stay healthy and safe when we get back to school. Created this presentation with some of my other nurse friends, Mrs. Gordon from the high school, and Mrs. Duvelsdorf from Crossroads South. So let's start talking. First, it's important to understand how an infection or a virus spreads. There are three things that need to happen. You need a source, a place where the germs are going to live, and they can be picked up. That's like a sink or your desk or your hands. A susceptible person, which is a fancy way of saying someone to catch the virus. And then you need transmission because the germs have to get from the desk or from your hands into your body. So those are the three things you need. They're related in the chain of infection, where you have your germs, they go into a person who might cough or sneeze. You have your mode of transmission, because it goes from your hands, and then maybe you touched your eyes, ears, or nose or mouth. We've talked about that. We're not supposed to touch our face. And then it lives in a susceptible host and the chain starts again. The good news is that we can break this chain. There's three different areas in this chain. One is from the portal of exit. If we wear a mask, when we cough or sneeze, none of those droplets are going to get out to get to anybody else. A second place we can break the chain is in that mode of transmission right here. And that's with social distancing. We're not shaking hands, we're not doing high fives, we're staying 6 feet away from our friends right now so that we don't have to worry about the transfer of the germs from the person to us. The third way that we can break this chain is over here by the portal of entry. We're not going to touch our face, and we're going to make sure that we wash our hands multiple times during the day to keep those germs away. We're also going to talk about some ways to stop spreading the virus. One of the most important things you can do is to stay home when you don't feel well. Sometimes we go out because we think we're not that sick. We're just feeling a little bit bad. Now, if you're feeling a little bit bad, you need to stay home until you feel well so that you can go back outside. The next key thing is hand washing. Hand washing is one of the best ways to protect yourself and your family from getting sick. Also, you want to cover your mouth and nose with a tissue or your elbow, or make sure you're wearing a mask when you cough or sneeze. And then after you've done that, you're going to have to get a fresh mask and wash your hands with soap and water. We want to avoid touching our face because that's how the virus gets in to our eyes, nose, or mouth. And if we do find our hands on our face, we want to make sure that we wash our hands. Okay, I already touched on wearing a face covering. We'll talk about that more. Social distancing, that's staying away from people so that the germs have a harder time traveling from one to the other. And we're not going to share personal items like pens or pencils, our toys, or books. So first we talked about staying home when you're sick. That means if you have a runny, sniffly nose, or if you have a cough, if you're sneezing, if you're feeling tired, more tired than normal, not it's time to go to bed tired, but really tired. If you have a temperature over 100, stay home. If you're getting a stomach ache, again, stay home. Those could all be signs and symptoms of the virus known as COVID-19. Next, we want to talk about washing our hands. For those of you coming back to Greenbrook, we had this lesson 2 or 3 times last year already. This is just a nice reminder. Okay, there are 5 steps to washing our hands effectively. First, we get our hands, we put them into the water, we get them wet. We come out of the water and we put soap on our hands. We lather them up. And we scrub for 20 seconds. While we're scrubbing, we're getting the backs of our hands, we're getting between our fingers and under our nails. We're going to be scrubbing for at least 20 seconds. Do you know how long 20 seconds is? It's how long it takes to sing Happy Birthday 2 times or to sing the ABC song. After we're done scrubbing, now we go back into the water and get all of that soap off. And now that we've scrubbed, all the germs are going to come off with them. We come out, dry our hands with a clean, dry towel. Those are the 5 steps. We have a little sign so we can remember them. When is it important to wash your hands? Most of the time. If you think you need to wash your hands, you should go wash your hands. But here's a few reminder questions. Did I just go to the bathroom? Am I about to eat? Did I just eat? Did I cough or sneeze? Did I touch something that somebody else has touched? Did I touch garbage? Or did I touch my face covering? If any of those answers are yes, it's time to wash your hands. Sometimes we're not by a sink, so we can't wash our hands. We could use hand sanitizer. Soap and water is better, but sometimes it's not available. So when we use hand sanitizer, we squirt some into our hand and we rub it again all over in between our fingers, and we rub until it's dry. And now our hands are sanitized. If your hands look dirty, if you see ick on them, you're going to want to wash with soap and water. Sanitizer is not going to help that. Another important thing is to remember to cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. So you're either going to cover like this because you're not wearing a mask, or you're going to have your mask on, and even then you could still cover when you do that. These pictures show how far the germs can go when you cough or sneeze and how many of them there are. Those germs travel a lot further than you think they will. The next thing is don't touch your face. The way that virus gets in, right, it needs a port of entry. It's going to get in through your mouth, your nose, your eyes, or your ears. So when you touch your face, you're either running the risk of putting germs that you picked up from your desk or your books or your pencils into your eyes, ears, or nose. Or if you have the virus and you rubbed your eyes, now you have that virus on your hands. So you don't want to touch your face. You want to be very cautious about that. It's important to wear a mask, also known as a face covering. Wearing a face covering in public settings when social distancing can be difficult is very important. We want to make sure we're wearing a mask the right way. You can see by these pictures up on top where you have the little green check marks. That mask is covering her nose and chin, keeping the germs out and keeping whatever coughing germs she has inside. On the bottom level where you have those little "don't do this" signs, it's because that mask is underneath her nose or pulled up over her chin so that her mouth can get out. We want to make sure that our mouth and nose is covered by our face covering. We want to wear a fresh mask every day because when you're breathing into this, it's getting dirty. So wear this one day, then get your next one for tomorrow. There are many different kinds of face coverings. Here's just some pictures of a few. There are many more, and they come in different colors and different patterns. What's important is that your face covering is comfortable enough for you to wear. It's never going to be like, oh, I'm so excited I get to wear it, but comfortable enough that you can keep it on without playing with it, and that it covers your mouth and nose. Some of them go like this, whoops, and hook over your ears. And again, we want to make sure that we get it on so that our ears aren't all foldy. It can take a little bit of work, and you just got to hang in there. And again, you want that mask to be comfortable enough for you to wear and to make sure it's covering your nose and your mouth. This is a picture that shows how much better you do when you wear a mask. On the left side, we see somebody who has COVID-19. If they're not wearing a mask and you're talking with them and you're not wearing a mask either, the probability is high that you're going to get sick. We move down here and we see that if the person who's sick is wearing a mask and you're not, then your risk is a little bit lower. But if they're wearing a mask and you're wearing a mask, the transmission possibility is the lowest, and the lowest risk is the best. That is what we're looking for. So we will all be wearing our masks in school. Now we want to talk a little bit about social distancing. It's important for us to be staying 6 feet away from each other. When you're home with your family, you don't have to stay 6 feet apart unless somebody is sick at your house. But when we're outside or when we're in school, we want to make sure that we are staying 6 feet apart. Do you know what 6 feet is? If you pretended to lay a door down between you and your friend, that would be 6 feet. And we want to stay that far apart so that the germs are not going from one person to another. Because sometimes with COVID-19, we can't tell who's sick and who's not. So if we all pretend that we have the virus and we don't want to give it to somebody else, we will be super careful, and soon we will all be healthy. Another important thing to talk about is that for now, we're not going to be sharing personal items. That's very different for us. We're used to sharing toys and blocks and playing with balls when we're outside at recess. But just for now, we're not going to be sharing our toys or our pencils. We're not going to be sharing games together, and we're not going to be holding hands with our friends. I know that that's going to be very hard, but it's very important. Again, we want this virus to go away. So hopefully one day soon, we will be able to share and hold hands again. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from this talk, and if you have any questions, please reach out to your school nurse. We are here to answer all of your questions.